Heroes, my friends.
Hello.
Cool.
Welcome in! Woo! We're here, guys. You are with us for a very exciting Highlight Heroes. We've got a special guest that we're going to introduce in just a second here. But first, Parker, how you doing?
Oh, we're doing that. I thought I was going to go right into announcements. I'm doing well, Josh. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's been a crazy day, but we're here, and I'm very excited for Highlight Heroes.
We're doing it.
And our guest today is Kolbisneat, Andrew. Andrew, say hello to the people.
Hello, hi. I get to talk now. Nice to. I can't see. I was going to say nice to see you all. Nice to see you too. But for everyone else who's watching us, I'm glad that you're here. Thank you.
So, Andrew, tell the folks, what do you do, and where can they find you? What you got going on?
Sure, when I'm not streaming here.
Yep.
New game.
Welcome.
Then I am an author and illustrator. I mostly do kind of like picture and children's books and illustration unrelated to tabletop RPGs. But I most recently have released Neverland, a fantasy role-playing setting. Oh, I had a book, but it's too far away. But I'll grab it in a minute.
It's a beautiful
based
book.
on Neverland. Thank you. Yeah, thanks. So taking all that illustration, years of experience illustrating and GMing, merging it into this. So yeah, that's the most recent project. And I guess you can find me online at Kolbisneat. So same handle everywhere for as long as no one else decides to try to scoop it up.
That's right. Well, and for those who are familiar with the channel, we have played the Neverland TTRPG.
Right, that's right.
On the channel a few times. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have the honor now of speaking to the author-illustrator, which is just really exciting and awesome, guys.
You got it, thanks.
Make sure you are braining up those really good questions to ask. Braining is a word. Yeah, up those really good questions to ask towards the end of the session, because you get to ask them. But first...
Yeah, and I will answer them.
You promise? Wow!
I promise.
It really is an interview show. We've done it, guys. We're here.
We did it.
Woo! But
I don't know how many times.
Before we do that interview show, we are going to do some announcements things. Starting with Parker.
Hello, I'm here to talk about our schedule for this week. It's a pretty normal schedule. We have our weekly campaigns are both back. Friday, we're off the rails at 7 p.m. And then Saturday, we're with Conundrum Company. And then, guys, we just hit our community event during this stream. So thank you guys so much for spending your tweet tokens on the next community one-shot. Conundrum Babies, where Josh is going to take the cast of Conundrum Company as we play toddler versions of our characters that are going to get into all sorts of trouble. And I can't picture it, so it's going to be great. On to you, Josh. I'm playing it, and I don't know.
I'm very mumuch channeling Rugrats energy, is what I'm thinking.
It's going to be so much fun.
Yeah. Oh, I'm hyped. I did see Laura Hayden asking about if I do Conundrum Baby DM. Sure, I'll try my best. I haven't been a baby in a long time.
All the NPCs are just going to be toddlers.
Yeah, that's true, I suppose.
Tiny fancy Oceanas.
Oh my. Okay, so none of this, whatever this is, could be brought to you guys without our fantastic sponsor, the first of whom is... Skull Splitter Dice.
I can't do the thing. I'm sorry. The guys do a fun little thing after. I never do it. I'm sorry.
You're safe. You do many other good things, Parker. You know.
Thanks.
Yeah. Skull Splitter Dice. Not only do they sponsor our program, and they also sponsor a monthly giveaway. Last month's just closed out and was drawn technically this month, but the last one we just did our drawing yesterday. So that means that the next one is going to start drawings during Off the Rails on the 1st. Mm-hmm. That's this Friday, and that's going to be super awesome. But in the meantime, click on the link in chat. Go check out their products. Skull Splitter has been working with us for a very long time now. We really, really appreciate them. And we want you all to give them a little love, a little friendship. Show them, tell them we sent you. Of course, our second sponsor is the gooeyest of cube companies, Gooey Cube. Gooey Cube makes a whole D&D 5e supplemental world available for folks to use if they don't have time to homebrew their whole own world. It's this beautiful box set with all kinds of artwork, lots of work and effort put into completely redoing everything. It's gorgeous. It's lovely. We highly recommend you check them out. The link is in chat. While you're checking out links, click on the Twiki link that should also be in chat. That's where there's a bunch of information on our shows. Huge shout out to our cast members and also Tanner Mythalidor for keeping that running. There's a lot of information in there. It's worth a look. Guys, it's pretty exciting. it's Inktober month.
Yay! Soon.
Yeah,
Friday.
we're starting a little early. As a part of Inktober, guys, send in your fan art to askthelwelcomein@gmail.com or tweet it at us or add us on Instagram, whatever it is. But do some fan art, OTR or CC. We're doing 2 giveaways for each campaign. Send it in, and you get a chance at the end of the month, I think just after October 7th, to get some really cool swag Parker's been pulling together for you. So get in on that. Get some free stuff. I mean, also, we love the art, so,
We do.
that as well.
Like featuring it.
We really do. Last but not least, before we get going properly into the interviews, guys, this is, I think, the last for our charity this month, which is NAMI, the National Alliance of Mental Illness, the nation's largest grassroots mental health organization dedicated to building better lives for the millions of Americans affected by mental illness. Mental illness is a very real thing, obviously, and it is something that plagues many individuals in our nation and across the planet. We highly recommend that before you spend money on subs or bits or whatever, you click on the donate button in the About Us section or the link in chat. Make a donation. Do it in our name, in your name, a friend's name, a family member's name. Just do it for funsies. Whatever it is, that is where your money is best spent. Not on the channel, but in good, wonderful donations. We really appreciate it. And with that, guys, I think it's time for questions. Are you ready, Andrew?
Born ready. I'm here and excited.
You were born for this very moment right here.
Absolutely. It's all been coming to this.
Countless achievements you've already... Oh my god. I can't even stream. Wow. Okay, so what we're going to do really quick. Parker, what are you working on today?
I am working on some Photoshop stuff because I'm behind
Nice.
on Patreon.
This is how busy Parker is. Parker is working during one of our shows.
I've done it a couple of times.
Yeah, so if you ever were curious, Parker's a very, very, very busy woman.
Is it okay to share in more detail what you're working on specifically? Like,
Sure,
Ooh,
I
yeah.
would love to. I'm gonna actually pull up my
Andrew's
deck.
a better interviewer than both of us.
So you actually would probably think this is really cool because the artwork is absolutely beautiful. So this is the Wicked Works Adventurers Tarot deck. And so it's all of the cards are based off of D&D things. And I actually bought this deck because one of my followers sent me the Ranger card, which is one of my favorite classes. Sent me the Ranger and was like, "Is this you?" And it's like a redhead with my very aesthetic, so I cosplayed it. And then my patrons liked it, so I was like, "Oh, well, the designs are really pretty. I'm going to start cosplaying all of them." So I'm actually working on editing the background for the designer, who this is the card based off of the artist. And I already had like this dress and the wig and the horns that I borrowed from a friend. And so I was like, I'll do this. And so it's actually my first Photoshop little adventure into changing my skin color to purple and not body painting. Because
neat.
So working on that. I did the body paint parts already. I'm working on like all the intricate little lightings in the background. But
Gotcha. Cool.
yeah,
That's incredible. That's
That's
such
what
a
I'm working on.
cool source material as well.
Oh, I love it. I love it. All of the designs are so pretty. I could go about the artist is so I could go on forever about this deck, but I digress. That's what I'm
Very
doing.
cool.
What I'm doing is I am painting the forecastle front piece for the Falling Star, which is sitting over there. I have things to do on the Falling Star. It's too big to paint at this desk. I constantly am like, I was doing Cosplaygrounds audio yesterday, and I had it like turned upside down and was trying to, I gave up because it's just too, so I'm working on the small pieces today. That's my little project. Andrew, what have you got, my friend?
I'm holding a little mini of Minsk, which came with the kind of like official D&D. This is not sponsored or anything like that, but the kind of like, and this is the first time I'm saying this word out loud, so bear with me. Nolzur's Marvelous Pigments Adventure Paint Set. So
Nice.
there you go.
Is Boo with Minsk?
Yes. Yes. I don't know if I can.
Guys, it's so
there.
good.
A little bent, but I'll straighten it out. It'll be okay.
That's a classic. That is a D&D classic right there.
Yes. Yeah,
So,
there you go.
for those who don't know, Minsk has a little familiar companion that is a tiny little hamster named Boo. That is legendary.
That's very cute.
Yes, it's essentially just kind of like a little bead of plastic, but it's there. So, they are there. Yeah.
You're like
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
doing its thing. Oh my gosh.
Gosh. Well, okay. So what kind of going from there? Like, do you have any experience painting minis? What's that look like?
Oh, sure. No, I have zero experience. This is the first time I'm ever going to be painting a mini.
Well, we're happy to be here and honored to be here with you
Thank you.
as
Yeah.
you start what will inevitably be a massive addiction that costs you lots of money.
Yes,
That's-
I plan on it.
Yeah, that's what happened to me.
And also where I'm hoping that asking questions is okay too, because I'm going to ask, what do I do? Where do I
Okay.
start?
So,
It's been a while since we've actually had somebody paint a mini because we've had a lot of like artists on recently that drew, or like we had a lot of like different things going on.
Oh,
So this is
neat.
the first time that Josh can be like, the thing that I was supposed to do for the
Okay.
show.
we've done it, guys! We're doing mini things and interviews! What is this?
We're back.
Coming full circle.
Oh, this is full circle. So you have your paints, I assume.
I do.
Now, I don't know what the WizKids sets look like exactly. I've never seen their paints. Do they have, like, different types of paints or any kind of palette stuff? Like, what does it say on the little bottles you've got?
So it looks like it's all a series of colors, and then this really is becoming an advertisement for this kit.
I mean, heck, hey, Wizards free advertising, you're welcome.
No,
There
and
you
then
go.
I thought it was gonna be something else, but it's also just bugbear brown. So it looks like it's all strictly pigments, but I do know that there's one labeled gray primer. So I'm assuming we'll start with a gray primer.
That is the right place to start, yes.
Right.
And what you can do is be pretty sparing with it. Like, you're going to want to dip the whole brush in there and get it feel real thick and dense. Get it a little wet, dab the wetness off, so use water, obviously. Dab
Yeah.
your brush off on a paper towel, and then take a tiny little bit of paint, and again, dab a little bit of that paint off, and then start painting with that. It's better to do like several thin layers than one really thick layer. And like when you're starting out, people always want to they're like, the color isn't going on, or it looks blotchy. And so they slather it on there, and that will come back to bite you in the butt. So there's my tip for you is
This is Josh teaching you what I did.
Parker, no,
and-
you are amazing. You are very
No,
good.
but this is I made all of those mistakes because what I did was I did a stream where this show originated from is because I did a stream painting my first little, like, it wasn't even a mini. It's the little dragon that later became the familiar in the campaign.
So
And
cute.
I was painting him and I was messing up. And so I messaged Josh, was like, you paint minis. Do you like want to stream like painting minis? And somehow that became this.
It's a beautiful origin story. I like it.
So we learned how to do that as we went.
As a
Cool.
crew, yeah.
Yeah. It
And
was
now
very
you've been
fun.
painting minis for a couple years, is that right?
Oh God.
At
Now
least
I've
a
been.
year.
Yeah. We were already into Conundrum Company. We were already into Twee by the time I started. So yeah, like a year and a half,
Oh, okay.
maybe. So not too much, but yes, a
What
little
about you,
bit.
Parker? How many years?
Oh, you mean Josh?
Oh,
Oh,
me?
sorry, Josh. Yeah, sorry.
You're good. I was like,
I have
me?
been painting minis for I think about 8 years.
Okay.
I have a shelf off to the left here that never gets on camera that is just 4 shelves of hundreds of minis.
Painted
that
or
all
to be
painted.
painted?
Painted.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
My to be painted pile is much bigger but less organized.
Oh,
It's
okay.
mostly a bucket of plastic because again,
Gotcha.
once you start, you're like, "Ooh, that sculpt is so good," and you buy it and then you never paint it, which is the
Yeah.
mini painter's curse.
Gotcha.
But
True.
yeah, I've been at this for a while. I was painting minis really before D&D stuff. I mean, I was playing I played 3.5, but there's a big gap between 3.5 and 5e, and I was painting in that gap. That was my creative outlet. So
Gotcha. And is the ship that you're working on the largest mini that you painted? Which I feel like also can't even really be called a mini anymore at that point. Just
a biggie.
a biggie.
It
Yeah.
honestly is. It isn't a mini anymore.
Yeah, I think it might be. Genuinely, I've painted some pretty big ones before, but I'm looking at them all now, and they pale in comparison to the ship.
Gotcha.
But fortunately, I am equipped with airbrushes and ventilation systems and all of that extra stuff. So it makes the process a little bit quicker because you can. Once you get good with an airbrush, it takes no time to throw that paint on there, which is nice.
Okay, so another good tip: if I have an airbrush,
Yeah, then
airbrush
it's
my
like,
minis.
When you decide to put that money into the hobby, you're like, this is it. This
here
is
it
where I
is.
go.
Right.
When you've bought an airbrush, you're really in deep.
which is
Well, it's
different
also,
than
I feel like it's a tool that you could use outside of painting minis as well. Like, I feel like it's
for sure.
Oh yeah.
and like it's just like an artist tool that, I mean, like, as much as I'm going to invest in brushes and paints, like I feel like that's not like it's maybe just the plastic that is exclusively mini,
Yeah.
but that doesn't feel so bad.
That's super valid. And like an airbrush is like cosplayers can use an airbrush if they're prop making. Like anyone who
Yep.
works with any sort of 3D printing, you know, it's got some utility.
Yeah. Parker, do you have an airbrush?
No. No.
Okay.
No. No.
He's like, God, no.
I am what we have like the 3 stages of mini painting right here where it's like you're just starting, I'm in the middle of spending too much money, and Josh is like way far too gone. Like Josh isn't coming back from this mini painting expense. We have a little choice in how far we get.
Yeah,
so
it feels like you're telling me that I'm at a crossroads and that
You
you're
are.
saying, like, get out.
You're
No,
looking into the
when
void. You need
You're
to, yeah.
looking into where it is, like where it could be. Like these are the 2 sides of it. Like I go to my comic book store down the street every like 2 weeks, and I walk in and they're like, "Look what minis we got," and I like pick them up and I get my new paint and I go to the thing and they're like, "See you next time," and I'm like, "Bye," and like they know who I am now. I'm like, I'm here for this, and that's where we are.
Oh,
So,
cool.
You know, all right. Let's see. My question for you. This one's for you. How'd you get into D&D and TTRPG? You said you were a GM.
Right.
So
Yeah, and that's, I think, the gift and curse of, like, now that is almost exclusively what I do. But starting out was only a handful of years ago with the starter set with 5e. A friend of mine from high school that I've kept in touch with, his cousin was running it or wanted to run it, and they didn't have enough players. And he knew I played video games, so he's like, "I'm sure you'll like this." And I never looked back. That first session with there won't be many spoilers, but like with the dead horse and the goblins, I was like, "Oh, this is something that I didn't realize I was missing from my life," and I want more. Like, I think we left that session going, "Oh, like, do you want to plan for later this week, or like I'm free tomorrow night?" And I came on a little strong, but
was that Lost Mines of Fandelvar you were playing?
Yes.
Yeah, very good. A classic.
Yeah, very fun. I played a cleric because I thought healing would be really important, like a real team player. Even in my early days of playing, really just assumed that was important.
That's.
And then since then, we finished that. We did the Elemental Evil.
Oh, nice! The Temple of Elemental Evil. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Yes. So I played through that. So that friend from high school, he ran that. So. But by the time it was my turn to run Curse of Strahd, the kind of group had disbanded. Like, people were moving to different areas, and we weren't really online yet. But since then, because that group disbanded, and that was kind of the only crew that I knew who was into D&D or TTRPGs at all, then I essentially just became the like shepherd that brought new folks of like, who we like to hang out, we like to play board games, why don't we try this for a night? And then making all their characters, and then kind of like trying to learn as much as I can so that way I can fudge my way through an adventure. And made a bunch of like early GM mistakes of not railroading, but of like, you have a good idea, but I had planned for this. Like the classic stuff that you read and watch to learn not to do. I didn't have those resources yet because I was still in my infancy. But since then have really taken to kind of running games. So that's essentially my full journey. That's
so cool. So how many games are you currently like DMing? Anything active?
2 dedicated games in Neverland. One's a bit more frequent than the other. The more frequent one is also like my group that I ran games, and then as I was starting to write this, said, "Hey, would you be willing to try this setting that I'm working on?" And then they became my playtesters.
Your playtest group,
my guinea pigs. My little, I was going to say Boo, but Boo you said is a hamster, right? So
I mean, close enough, right?
It's like the D&D version.
Same family, yes. So yes, 2 dedicated games in Neverland. We're starting up another one with my partner and some of our friends, unrelated to Neverland, although they want to play in Oz. So I'm also working on another setting book, which is the Land of Oz. This isn't too much of a spoiler, but it's like kind of condensed down into like a mega city. Like I've kind of brought it in and made it a little more manageable to run, as opposed to kind of like a whole nation to keep track of. It's essentially just kind of like
The Emerald
like,
City.
Yes, with still the same like 4 like kind of regions broken down into districts. I don't know how deep
Nice.
into Oz lore we want to get, but anyway, my partner in that group wants to play an urban adventure, so that is where Oz comes in, and that is what I'm going to probably run next, while also maintaining Neverland.
I hate to get us off the rails here every Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern, but I have to ask, like, what is it like writing your own D&D setting? Like, I know that's a huge question and not super fair, but like, you're the first person I've got to speak to who's done it from the ground up in a full book. Like, that's a huge undertaking.
I have the advantage of a lot of the kind of like the skeleton of the world is, I mean, and Oz maybe even more so than Neverland is established. But I think the biggest challenge for me is figuring out the balance of how much do I want to, like, someone coming to Oz, what do you expect to experience? And also balancing it with, I want to add something new to it, or, I mean, those are also settings that work for books. It doesn't always translate one-to-one to an RPG setting. So what do I need to change to make it more enjoyable? And I guess that would be the first step, is going, oh, what do I want to see in this? Like, I'm a player, I'm sitting down, someone's running a game in Neverland for me. What do I want to experience? And then making that list, and then figuring out, I don't know. It's just like it's a blur, both with Oz and Neverland. I'm like, what have I done for the last 2 years? But I have a book now in front of me, and it works.
You just wake up and are like,
You wake up 2 years later.
Fugue state. Like, where was I?
Yeah. It's a lot of planning, it's a lot of writing, and then a lot of layout, and then a lot of drawing. That's a gross simplification, but it's a lot of everything. It's the biggest undertaking I've ever, like, my picture books, any project that I've done has felt big, but this, like, after Neverland, I was like, oh, I don't know if I can do that again. And then a couple of months later, I had that, like, oh, I know what I want to do for Oz, and then it's just started. So
I appreciate the explanation, because honestly, I came and asked, what I've done here, audience, is I've come in and asked an architecture, how do you make a building? Like, that's what I did. So I'm sorry for that, but it's incredible. That's really cool.
Like I said, I will treat all questions equally, because they've all been great so far. Or both. We've only gotten into 2.
We're really like getting into the nitty-gritty.
Our thing. We're like, this is just a conversation.
And I ramble, so if we need to get to something specific,
on a bunch of tangents, cool. It's okay.
Okay, great.
Don't you worry about it. Speaking of tangents or not being on them, we're going to get into the real questions now. We're going to learn things about you. We're going to judge you. No, I'm kidding. Obviously, we won't. We would never do that. What's your favorite class to play, and why?
So, because I rarely get to play, I think my ideal is just like real classic old school. I think my favorite class to play is like a wizard, like a classic wizard, like a pointy hat, like a. For me,
guy
like
who
this
gives
world.
quests.
Yes. Yeah, just like a red cap and a red robe with gold stars on it, just like cliche and almost
like,
how like.
You're one of those wizard statues that you buy at like a thrift store.
Yeah, exactly.
You're like, make me Merlin, please.
That holds.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. That's my dream, because I like playing the tropes. Like, I think it's fun to just be like an old man with a big beard and a red hat, just walking around being like, oh, this is too crazy for me. And then just doing a simple zap. So yeah, that's my favorite class.
This is too crazy for me. Cast Fireball.
Yeah, I also like to play like blundering characters who's just like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing, and then just see what happens. And then if I roll 6 1s or however many ones it is for a fireball, then I'm like, oh yeah, this is RP. This is exactly what my player or my character would do.
Perfect. So, as far as D&D 5e goes, do you have a favorite race to play? Do you have one that you lean more towards?
Yeah, I like to play dwarves as just kind of like real gruff, like almost like stone
Josh
themselves.
Is so happy.
Oh,
right now.
neat. But I will also say, if I got to play a new character, it would be a goblin, because I think that's a class that you can play now. I really like the idea of just kind of like being a little chaotic. I mean, I also play my goblins like 1970s New York cab drivers, like just like kind of gruff and just like
I love that.
But and like with a real bad New York accent. fun, but also can be grating for my players. Anyway, I would play it if I had the chance to play a character now. It would be a goblin. But the favorite
Answers
phrase that I've
two sides of Josh. Actually,
Yes. Oh.
Literally, yeah. Feral goblin or gruff dwarf are
neat.
are my
Love
comfort
those tropes.
zones. Yeah.
Inside of us, there are two characters:
Yeah.
the goblin and the dwarf.
Oh man. Now, no obligation. You're in a safe space here. Can we get your gruff New Yorker goblin accent? Is that?
Oh, if there are any New Yorkers watching, I apologize. But I don't know. Okay, so let's say we'll do like a very mini session because I need to get into characters. So you're in a dungeon and you hear this sound and you kind of like peek around the corner and you see a handful of goblins and they're all kind of like ransacking another dead body. And one of them looks up at you. What's the first thing you say to them?
Unhand that form!
And then the one who has I'm putting down my mini, so I'm real serious.
This is
the
very
one who has
immersive.
the biggest, tallest, slicked back hair with the kind of like rolled up sleeves of his little kind of like shirt that he's obviously stolen off of a farmer. Comes over with his arms crossed. He's like, "Hey, what you want? What you doing here? What do you need? This is our body. Get out of here." It's not good. But
It's
I'm
perfect.
gonna be like, I'm walking here. Like,
Forget about it.
it's yeah.
Oh, that was
love that.
excellent.
My
Well
players
done.
have always remembered the goblins and will never kill them, and always just kind of
That's
like
fair.
barter. Yeah, it's fun.
They get adopted, I'm sure, regularly, right? Like,
Well, they're also intelligent creatures who's like, what are you trying to do? I'm a grown man. What are you, get out of here.
leave me alone.
leave me alone.
Yes.
I will say this, and this is not at all against Josh's goblins because I love them dearly. I don't understand how your players think that's grating when I feel like Josh now has an obligation to tell you what his goblin voice is.
Please, yes, thank you.
Go ahead, show him cat.
Hello, everybody! My name is Kak Skagback, and I have no volume control!
I love it.
Yeah. It's a good time. We
I
do
ran a
kill the
world
goblins.
Yeah, they deserve it.
Oh yes, that's fair. Just to like end everyone's
Yeah.
misery. Okay, good.
Including Josh's wife dealing with it downstairs.
Yeah!
Someone closes the door when he uses
she's
goblin
not
voice.
playing.
No, she's not
Gotcha.
playing. She walks upstairs and we can hear the door close.
Gotcha. Okay. I run my horses that way, and I was in like kind of a fantasy land, close to it. My touchstone is there's like one episode in an early season of Rick and Morty where they're like, "Oh, this planet is ideal. We'll hang out here," and then the sun rises and it's just screaming constantly. Does that sound familiar at all?
Yeah, I remember
Anyways,
that.
the horses are super chill, but then whenever you get on the horse, they're super stoked to be like ridden and like serve the purpose that they have, and then just are screaming at the top of their lungs as they run at full speed. And that gets doors closed. Absolutely.
Yeah. Those, you've got a good voice when the neighbors are like, "So the other night, are you okay?"
Everybody okay?
Is he dying?
Yeah.
Did he fall?
Yeah.
Okay, so you you talked about your like favorite class here. What is there a class you haven't got to play, or a class that you want to visit, like a favorite like thing you want to try next?
I actually really like the idea of a paladin. There are also kind of a couple different types of clerics that I'd be interested in playing. And also, admittedly, because I like wizards, I also like the idea of, I think it came out in a supplemental resource of like a war mage, or like essentially kind of like you're a wizard, but you're kind of like have been on the battlefield, or like you're meant for kind of like big kind of warfare combat. I think that'd be fun to check out.
War domain wizard is very cool, or war school.
Oh yes. But I think if I was also going classic, I think it'd be fun to play a rogue, but like not the typical. No qualms against my players who play a classic rogues who are kind of like aloof and nobody's friends. I really like the idea of, this is also Rick and Morty. I do not watch that much Rick and Morty, but this will also show, because I think it's from the first or second season. There's like an assassin who's just like, I just love killing. Like, I think I like the idea of playing a rogue who's just like, I love the gift of reaching into that coin purse and taking out something that's not mine. Like, just like super charismatic, or like chill, and just loves thieving, and is just like really excited to be like, we've got a job, cool, and just go in very excited.
I played a rogue with a flower crown whose whole we played it in a one shot, and the entire thing was her small short story. We did a one shot where it was cosplay ground, and there were like teams of adventurers trying to get to the end to win this dragon's prize thing.
Cool.
And there was another group with a rogue who was like the edgy, like I have to be sad and I have to whatever. And at the end, my character like the whole time was like, you don't have to be like this. Like she's like this like flower kid with like lots of flowers in her hair and like very whatever. And she wins, and at the end she like puts the flower crown on his head and it's just like, you can be whoever you want. Like she's like, you don't have to do this. So it was very fun to just be like, actually, I'm adorable. Like,
but still, and absolutely skilled at what I do, and still as competent, if not more, than all these black-clad folks who just are really adhering to the norm.
Turn it on your head. My parents are alive and happy. Like, I don't know. I have a great family life back home.
They're fun.
My parents are together. I have like 6 siblings. Like, we live on a farm. I just felt like, this was cool. Like.
Yes. I'm not inheriting the farm, so I'm just going to steal somebody else's.
Yeah, I'm just going to steal other people's stuff.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
And let's see, normally we ask like the race you want to try next, but you said goblin, right? Did you have like an idea of what the goblin would be like? Is he going to sound like a taxi driver?
Yes, he would. And I think I would actually maybe would pair that with the rogue. Like, I think it'd be fun if it was just like really brazen thievery, like not even a theft so much as just like a mugging. That's it. We found it. It's more a goblin mugger.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it. That's
this character speaks to me. Yeah.
It's so funny because I'm in the middle of watching. I don't know if you've watched any of Dimension 20, but they have a show called Unsleeping City, and I'm watching through the first season of that. And you said goblin mugger with a New York accent. I was just like, yes, that makes total sense. Because I was just watching that. It's like perfect.
Yeah, I'm obviously real like headspace into urban settings and really researching cities and kind of like inter neighborhood politics. So that's just obviously what's on my mind.
Can I ask an offshoot question from that?
Yeah, of course.
I know you're like working on Oz right now, and like obviously that's like a very fantastical magical city. And you said that you like doing research and stuff. Is there like a real life city that you would want to set something in?
Ooh, good question.
I think what I would do is probably use it and kind of like either like do kind of like is it low fantasy, or essentially kind of like it's still New York, but we have kind of like fantastical elements, or it's still Prague, but then we've got fantastical components. What is the city with all the canals in Europe?
Venice?
This is showing my... Yes, thank you. Yes, absolutely. I think Venice would be a great city to kind of have a fantasy setting in, because I think it'd be cool to have like not gondola races, gondola chases of just like we gotta get before we get up to the I think that'd be.
My brain also immediately went to like there's sea elves or merfolk that like live in the canals.
Oh yeah, cool.
Canals, but like they're really like an offshoot of like high elf sea elves. It's like very like weird. I don't know. My brain immediately was like, something lives in the water.
It's
it's
Luca. It's what it is. We're talking Luca here.
Yeah. Whoops.
No, I love that. I like the idea of like essentially the surface of the water separates the kind of like two cities, almost like the Underdark, but it's just like that much closer. Like essentially the building below the water is a completely different purpose.
Kids that like live in Venice, they're like, don't swim further than 4 feet down. Like, end up somewhere else.
Yeah. Like, so I think that's what I would do. Do you have any ambitions or kind of sights on running a campaign in an existing city?
I do not. We have 2 weekly campaigns. I am not the DM. The 2 other innkeepers, obviously Josh and then our wonderful friend Sean, run them. But we did just have one shot in a modern campaign that was very, very fun. That was all about. It had a very Stranger Things sort of feel, but it was about a group of like unlikely kids. It ended up being very like Breakfast Club-esque that got powers in this mysterious thing from like going to the opening of a mall. And they come back like later, and because they all like got their powers like given to them and don't really understand them because magic isn't a thing in this modern setting, it was very fun because we all got to like give really strange classes to people. So like I play a cheerleader who's a blood hunter.
Okay, yeah,
and it was like the juxtaposition is very, very good. We have a cleric whose god was his love of competitive chess. because he's from the chess club. We had a warlock whose patron was Taylor Swift because he loves Taylor Swift songs so much.
Okay.
So it was very, very good.
Oh, that's great.
Very, very good.
Very neat.
If I may derail by also asking a question, like as maybe what I'm also wondering is like, you don't have any other campaigns to run or play in, but you have like a willing party that is game to do whatever. What is even if it's just like a 2-shot, like what is it that your blue sky adventure that you run?
You're like your perfect trope or your perfect like setting? Is that sort of the...
Yeah, is it like I guess I'm looking for is it like a heist in like in a desert? Is it like a kind of a Colosseum kind of like clash of individuals? Is it like PvP? What do you...
I'm currently doing a lot of homebrew writing for reasons undisclosed on a personal setting, and it's turn of the century post-industrial London all the time in everything, which I will always go to. I like intrigue, so intrigue campaigns are like my bread and butter, but it's always intrigue paired next to stupid Michael Bay plot setting explosions. So there's like this intrigue element, and then there is a giant crashing into a bridge. I like putting those two things right next to each other. I think the juxtaposition is very fun, and I usually build around that sort of thing. So there's usually...
Well, how do you feel about the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes movies? Like, is that...
Big fan.
Big
fan. I like the source as well. The author is a little problematic sometimes, but most people from that time period are.
As working with Neverland and Oz, I mean, like at the end of the day, you're going to run into it no matter what. It's not great.
You got to separate the work from the individual at a certain point too, and take the work with the good and the bad. But yeah, I literally have a playlist, and dun, 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 is on there like 6 times. So
cool.
What about you, Parker?
That's great. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I'm not a DM. I have DM'd, but I am not.
DM'd. Yeah, you were.
Yeah.
In this world, though, you are totally confident,
super
and skilled
confident with it.
Absolutely, whatever you need to do. So you're just like, this is gonna work. You know it's gonna work.
I'm doing it.
I definitely. So like, I loved playing in a modern setting. But I think I lean heavily back towards like high fantasy stuff. I think I would probably want some sort of like topsy-turvy. The one shot that I ran was a carnival. I would do like a topsy-turvy like Feywild adventure. I love Feywild stuff. I love Sealy Court stuff. My dog decided that my answer was good.
Merlin agrees.
Yeah, so it's very good.
The new book just came out, The Wild and the Witchlight. That is very much along those lines. Its whole thing is crazy Fey Court Carnival.
Yeah, it seems like it was written for you. Much in the same way that card was designed for your cosplay.
The aesthetic in it is very good too. Well, okay, where are we? So we've done class. We've done okay. Here's where we really get you into trouble. Okay. This is the hot take time. Your least favorite class and why?
Okay, the caveat being, I think rogues tend to attract anti-social in-game characters that I think I'm generally hesitant of someone saying they want to play a rogue. I would never turn anyone away, but I just, when I see that, I tend to pay a bit more attention to kind of reading between the lines of what they want to play. So I would say that but I'm also saying that as a dungeon master. As a player, I think I'm the least interested in like the warlock or sorcerer, only because I feel like those could be parts of the wizard. This is also me showing my kind of like, I like to simplify. Like I think if we, like I like what the kind of fighter has done with kind of, you could do this or you could do that. Like I like that kind of branching paths. And I like that within the realm of fighter. So I think I would streamline warlock or sorcerer. But I've also never played either. Maybe I would love them.
You've very much got a DM's approach to answering these questions. It's super valid. Like we rarely get these answers, but when you listen, I'm listening to you speak about it. It is very much the DM. Like you can tell you've got that forever DM energy because you're like, okay, how do I have to balance to this? What are the core mechanics? What are the parasocial elements of this? Cool.
As soon as I personally, like, my answer to this is usually Warlock, because I hate the limitations of the Warlock, the way that it is. I'm like, okay, I could just like, I could just pray to a real god and get like a lot of spells. Like it can still come with the same daddy issues. Like I don't like how Warlocks play that much, but I have a Pathfinder 2 game that we play on and off that I play the witch class in that. And
oh, cool.
And it is Warlock flavor wizard run. Like it's
okay.
Yeah, so it's like, here's the flavor of Warlock, but you get your spells, and here's how you learn them, and here's this. And it's like it was great. It was like my answer to wanting that flavor, but also wanting to play a wizard.
Oh, that's great. I didn't realize that Pathfinder had the witch class. That's good to know.
2E has a witch class that is just very cool and very good. Love it so much.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Because my partner, we in a mini adventure, she wanted to play a witch, so I kind of hobbled together like the wizard with the, I forget which one has the kind of like chaos magic.
The wild magic sorcerer.
The wild magic.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Is that the sorcerer?
That is a sorcerer. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I brought that in to kind of make it a bit more kind of But if only I knew then what I know now, it would have been so much easier.
Pathfinder's got a lot of good stuff to pull out.
Pathfinder 2E is very good. Do you have a least favorite race to play, and why? Is there one that you just find yourself struggling with or don't like?
I'm probably happy to play whatever, and I don't mean to strictly go back to a GM answer, but I think
nothing wrong with
least
GM
favorite is. I think the least favorite is the Goliath. I think only because it feels like I'm just a tall human, whenever I see someone play, they usually play tall, dumb human, and I'm like, okay, I guess like that's fine. I also run into that with half orc as well. Like I think some tropes are less fun to experience than others. So I think the Goliath is the one that I kind of like shy away from the most. But I'm also like, I think I usually tend to like less of the fan. Like I think I really play old school of like, oh, like maybe an elf or maybe a dwarf in the group of like mostly humans, and that's kind of the weirdo of the kind of quartet or whatever you are. But I will say now writing for Oz, if you have a party of like a Kenku and bunny folk and like it just all feels right, like it's just like, oh, you're this crazy hodgepodge of just like everyone is unique and special, and that's perfect. Like that's perfect for an adventurer, like an adventuring party walking down the yellow brick roads to go speak to Ozma. Like it feels right. Cool. So I'm really excited to kind of like bring players in because my play testers are going to be in Oz. And they're coming up with the wildest stuff, and I'm like, you can get weirder. I'm into it. Whatever you want.
As a player, as like the forever player, having a DM be like, you could get weirder. It's great.
Oh, great. Okay, cool.
Let's see. Okay, so we're getting to the end of our questions, so folks, start highlighting your questions. We're going to be reading them out. We know it's been such a good conversation. We haven't gotten there yet, but we've found out so much.
Do we have any? I'm not looking at the chat. Are there any questions?
There are a few, and I guarantee you there are more incoming now. So guys, get your questions ready to ask. But
highlight them, please.
Please. And if you can't, then our mods are keeping an eye out, and just type them in. They'll try and highlight them for you. So you're creating content. You're making books. What's the origin story for that? How did you get there? How did you end up in this content creation space?
I think kind of being the forever GM, like I think running adventures for especially groups who had never played before, looking for something that was introductory, if that makes sense, like not to simplify it or be reductive. I think I was looking for something that was like, oh, I want this adventure to teach good habits and also be fun to play. So I would end up like having to heavily modify like an adventure that I'd gotten off of the DM's Guild, or kind of found an old module that I'd kind of like adjusted for 5e. But I think essentially running enough games going, oh, I think this is like, I would want to run a game like this, and then also having to reorganize, because like my background is in graphic design before I went into illustration, before I went into writing. It's a real snake. But looking at a lot of the design, I understand a lot of the folks are like specifically writers and kind of like artists first. But it's like it was really hard for me to kind of work with the design. So my approach to Neverland was like, oh, what is the book that I would want to like have at the table? So like it's a hex crawl, so you can like move around to each hex and explore. So each page is the hex with the tables and a brief description. Like everything is kind of like table friendly, but also just kind of really easy to organize. And now I think I've rambled too far off of remembering what the question was. Oh, how I made content. This is how I got into it. It was essentially running other adventures and heavily formatting them and going, oh, I think I could like do this, or I would like to try this and do it for myself. So yeah, just like trying and researching.
Just playing a lot of TTRPGs and then being like,
yes,
I got something I can bring to this.
Yes, yeah.
Oh, definitely. That's awesome. That's such a good message too. Like, there's so much value in that.
Yeah, I think it's just like looking at something and going, oh, this is what I want. Like if you can't find it, then I think it's like there's no harm in trying to make it yourself. I think that's really it. So that's my unintentional message or theme for this stream.
You're like, there it is.
Yeah.
All right, and then my question is your biggest hobby outside of TTRPGs and D&D. So like, what is something that's a hobby for you?
Like I mean, like I have lots of little hobbies. Like I play ultimate frisbee, or I like go running. But I think my like dedicated hobby is probably reading. Does that count as a hobby? Like I think
it definitely does.
More people.
Okay, great. I think
that's a good hobby.
I'm really burning through the Discworld novels right now, and really
it's on my list.
Oh yeah, if you ever want to talk Discworld, I'm interested as to like. Well,
my best friend who is in the Twee server absolutely loves it. So if you ever need anybody to talk with, she's been telling me to read it. It's gotcha. That and Josh's favorite book series that are on my list at the moment.
What are Josh's favorite series?
I'm very much into The Wheel of Time, obviously, by Robert Jordan. Yeah. That whole series. And then branching off of that, Sanderson closed out that series, so Stormlight Archives. I don't know if you've read either of these, but they're very
I do know that there's a series coming out for The Wheel of Time. Is that right?
Hyped. Yes, that is very right. It looks good. I highly recommend them. It's Tolkien-esque, the way everything is very, very deep world building, so I would assume you're very much into that sort of thing. So it's Sanderson can be a little long-winded, but it's very good. It's very good. Or not Sanderson, excuse me. Jordan could be long-winded. Sanderson is perfection.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now, how many... I feel like I kind of know the vague answer to this. How many books are in the Wheel of Time series?
I believe there are 14. It's 14 or 16. And the last book in hardcover, I think, is 700 pages. Yeah.
Okay.
It took me 6 years to read all of them, I think.
If you like audiobooks.
Yeah, good point.
Stormlight Archives has a very good audiobook.
Oh, okay.
Very good. Okay. Very good. Sanderson's are very good.
Sanderson is a really good entryway. Like, you sit down, you consume it. It's more contemporary. It's less sexist. And so you can, like, sit down with it, engage with it, and there's less of it. Like, it's not 800 books long.
That was literally a selling point of my dad wanted, like, my dad's who got me into D&D and got me into, like, reading Lord of the Rings, and we had to read the books before we saw the movies, blah, 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 blah. So, when I was home for Christmas, he asked if I had any suggestions for fantasy books. I told him the Stormlight Archives because that's what Josh was telling me to read. He fell in love with them, and literally one of the selling points, I was home for, like, Father's Day or something, and he was like, Parker, they know how to write women. Like, these are full dimensional characters. Like, he was, like, so excited. And I was just like, he has 2 daughters. That's very important to him. Yeah. But it was just so funny that was a selling point of the book. Was like, they know how to write women. Like, it's full characters. And I was like, good, Dad, I'll read it.
Because I'm assuming he's been reading fantasy for years and run into kind of, like, the old guard. Yeah, okay. Gotcha.
You know, like, he constantly, like, just tells me about, like, we have, like, the first edition, like, Lord of the Rings books, like, the print that he, like, read, and, like, I have the ones that, like, at our house that, like, he grew up reading, and so it was very much just, like, he's been reading fantasy, like, he read, obviously, author is problematic, but, you know, he read like the Harry Potter books to us, like when we were little, like so like it's very much like he's watched the progression of like fantasy and like those things.
Cool.
And so him just being so hype about these books, like having fully dimensional realized female characters. I was like, that's great, Dad. That's good.
Oh,
Thanks,
lovely.
Bob.
Yeah, I was like, I'm glad. All right.
And so Parker, what are you reading now? I'm sorry.
Oh, no,
Last
you're
question,
good.
I promise.
I love this. It's very organic. It's fun.
I like books. Oh God, what am I? So, I have one of these things where like I am very busy. I like put my hands in too many projects usually. So I like audiobooks, or I really love reading short stories or fan fiction.
Oh, cool.
because I can read like, oh, this is like a nice story about characters that I care about, and then I'm done. Because I like to read like a little bit before I go to bed each night, but if I get into a book, I read the whole book. Like, I don't set the book down.
Everything else ceases to exist.
Everything else ceases to exist.
Because I'm like, oh, this is where I stop. But yes, I get you.
Yeah,
So what's the most recent short story or fan fiction that you're willing to share on stream?
Fan fiction I'm willing to share on stream. I read a really cute. I said I've been watching Dimension 20. I read like a really cute, really well written. Now I can't remember the title, but like cute little side adventure that somebody had written for like the Fantasy High Bad Kids. It was like very wholesome and cute, and I read that recently, but I can't remember what it was called. But that has really good fan fiction.
That is not surprising to me.
I am a fan fiction, like I'm not even like shy about that. Like I love reading fan fiction. And like I used to want to be a writer, and like so like I love reading. I was an editor in college, like those kind of things. So
cool.
I just love reading. And so but oh gosh, I mean, like there was a point in time where like I had read like all of the Mighty Nine like Critical Role fan fiction. Like that has really like I've told Josh this before, but like different fandoms attract different kinds of writers, and there are some there are some kind of fandoms that like have really well written fanfics. So like you can pretty much like Fantasy High, like Dimension 20 hasn't been bad. Critical Role was pretty good. Like there are shows that I've like really enjoyed. This is a lot more than the community needs to know about me. So anyway, the comment. The chat.
No, it's great. I mean, I would also to validate or to reassure you, like essentially Neverland is fan fiction. Like the book that I've done is just a giant TTRPG fanfic book.
You're
so,
like, I don't mind. It's here.
Full support.
Thank you. So let's see. JP Covert asks, would you ever want to make a book for an original campaign setting? So like, do you have like a homebrew world or something?
Yeah, I'd be open to it. I think it would just need to be like I don't have something specific in mind. But I would be open to it. Like if the right idea came along, I'd be into it. But I think I really have like, I want like an island setting. So I think Neverland is a good fit. I want like a city setting. like that's perfect for Oz. Like in my mind, perfect for Oz. So it would just have to be like, what is the kind of like hook of it? Because I think I would need. Yeah, to have like kind of that thrust of why am I going to do this original setting? Like, what is it that, like we were talking about before, like what is it that is unique, or what does it bring to the table that's different from before, or like that what's already out there? Which there's a lot of great stuff out there, so it's really hard to find like something new. I don't know if that answers the question, but yes, I would do it. I just don't know if I have that idea yet. Yeah.
I really think it's cool that you're picking the settings based on like what you're looking at, and also just like putting that much work and like development into like a specific sort of setting. Like I feel like the Neverland TTRPG like setting that you did was like, here's my love letter to this. Like here's my so I think that's really cool.
Well, there's this thing that stands out to me, and that's so we talk about. So I'm currently running this Conundrum Company campaign, and it sits in the existing D&D setting of Greyhawk. There's something distinctly D&D about your answer there, where like a lot of people do run in an existing setting and make alterations to it, and that is a love letter. Like, that is what you're doing when you're setting up your first game in the Sword Coast, right? You're not going to be exactly canon. Nobody ever is, right? You're going to make alterations, the story's going to change, but that is so quintessentially Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
It's so real. Like, that's awesome.
It's this shared community that is like everyone, and I mean, I think I write this in the Neverland too. Like everyone's Neverland is going to be unique. Like I've read accounts of folks who are like, I want Pan to be like this really dark and kind of going into this deep backstory, which is completely different than anything I have or would ever run. But it's like, oh yeah, cool, yeah, this is your Neverland. That I think is also what makes it feel yours, or like helps you run it too. Like I always had trouble when I need to remember blocks of text for someone like that someone else has written. Like if you're coming up with it off the dome or off your like from your own mind, then I feel like it always just like sticks a bit better.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm that was one question, and it was a great question. Thank you.
It was a good
It's a great
so
answer.
Helena Rachel, hi Rachel. Asked if you could add any item or character from another classic children's story to Neverland or Oz, what would you add?
Oh, I mean,
That's
like
a big
I included a lot in Oz. I think what would I include from Neverland? Oh, I mean, I don't know if this counts, but I really like the version of like Peter Pan and Neverland from the movie Hook. Like, I think I like the idea of introducing this is maybe going one off, but I like the idea of baseball. I think if I could introduce something, it'd be the character of baseball into my world of Neverland.
Oh, I love that.
As far as Oz, well, I'm trying to remember what I have. No, I mean, I've included most from the two movies. So maybe the Lollipop Guild. I don't know. We'll have to see. Maybe it'll still get in there. So yeah, great question. Thank you. And I'm sorry that I only half answered it.
So let's see. Commune asks, if you were to convert another literary world into a TTRPG source book, what would it be? So if you were looking at something after Oz.
Oh yeah, I have an idea for after Oz, but I won't share that because
That's okay.
I will go like pie in the sky. A dream would be one of two things. Discworld, I think, and I think really working in an urban environment. I'd love to do like Ankh-Morpork, which I guess only would make sense to the Discworld fans here. But like that mega city, or talking about reading. One kind of like manga series that I read is called Delicious in Dungeon. If either of you know it, it's essentially.
I don't know that one.
Here we go.
Don't know that
I'm going to pitch it to you and then also tell you why I want to run or like make a book for this world.
Oh, I'm hyped.
Okay.
The concept is that it's these adventures, like these dungeons randomly appear throughout the world, and now we're starting to, at least where I'm at in the series, I'm starting to understand why. But people go in and make money, but this group loses all their gear and they don't really have much to kind of like go in with, but they need to get in for reasons that will make sense if you read the series. But the concept is that they essentially have to eat all the monsters that they slay. Like they have to survive going deeper into the dungeon by figuring out how to eat the monsters. So one of the dwarves or one of the party members is a dwarf who's like kind of like an esteemed chef or like a very good cook and chef. So he is like the one who like guides them through this part, but then the others are the adventurers. Yeah, so it's just like charming and fun. I'd love to be able to do something that takes that kind of eating mechanic or like also has like these stats for the monsters that's like, oh, if you kill a cockatrice, then you get this chicken meat, you get this snake meat, you could take harvest the eggs. Like I like that kind of survival component.
It's very like a dungeon video game where you're like, here are the things that I got and here's what I can do with them.
Yeah, exactly. And
I'm just hearing the really Monster Hunter cooking music.
Yeah,
exactly. That or like even the light version in Breath of the Wild. Like I like the idea of like everything kind of serves its purpose. Like it's very environmental driven or like sustainably driven. Oh yeah, love to do that.
This manga also sounds amazing, by the way.
It sounds very good.
It's so funny and the characters are so great in like a low key, like none of them are broad. I can't suggest it enough. Delicious in Dungeon. I love it.
Delicious in Dungeon. All right, that
sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Let's see. And then from Cremaniac, he asked your favorite time when either you or your party broke the DM, or your favorite natural 1 or 20. So is there a moment that you can think of? I know you're kind of forever DMing that like your party completely broke you.
Now, does this mean like break me as in like I'm real sad and they like, what am I doing here? Or like just I had no idea that this would happen.
Good break. Like I didn't know this was going to happen, or you completely drop character because you're laughing so hard, or Josh does if you watch any of CC, Josh's breaking is this.
I leave the table.
Like he also a couple of times has just fully been like, and leaving.
Oh, great. Okay. Yes, I have it. So this group that I was talking about that wants to do a new, like that we're working on getting a new game going in Oz. The very first, and this was the very first group that I had run D&D for. So there's 3 of them, all very close friends. They were going up a wizard's tower that was all set with a bunch of booby traps and silly stuff. And I had 3 mimics, like 3 treasure chests. And I had not planned this, but of course, because there were 3 treasure chests, they all they're like, oh, we each have a chest. We'll each open it at the same time. So they all walk up and they go like, here we go, and then count down 1, 2, 3, and then I'll go to lift it, and then I think 2 or maybe not all 3, but definitely the majority of them. So I guess at least 2 got stuck, and then the other one attacked, and they're like, why did we do that? Like it was just they were like overwhelmed at how they had blundered so much. I was in shock because I had no idea that this power of friendship would compel them to all open these chests at the same time. Like I figured one would trigger the other 2 and it'd be fine. Just I didn't know what to do. They almost died because 2 of them were stuck to the chests. The other one was eating. It was a mess, but they all got by. And yeah, has always stuck with me. I don't know if that quite broke me, but it's definitely the kind of like, oh, what have I done? And has obviously left an impression from years ago. Yeah.
That's such a good moment, though.
I just love the phrasing of like the power of friendship, like just kind of, I don't know.
Them.
Yeah, the power of friendship compelled them, and they almost died.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Yes. Yeah.
Ride or die,
Oh
very
gosh.
much. Ride or die.
That's so funny. Oh my gosh. Okay. Let's see. I think that we might be caught up on questions.
Oh, that's
We might be good. And we are right around the 8 o'clock hour mark.
Great.
Look at us. Well, you know what? Then I better put this down.
And I'm all primed.
How does it look? Yeah, show us what you got.
Oh my god! Well, it's just gray. It's just the same. It's a
gray.
slightly different shade of gray than before. I don't even know if it'll
But
be
it's
able to
primed.
focus.
It looks good.
Yeah, I'll show Boo a bit better now. I don't know if it'll focus, but on his
Is he on
left
his
shoulder.
Yeah, the shoulder
Yes,
there, the
yeah.
cutie.
Yeah, I'll do a makeup tutorial. Here we go. It's just
Oh
like
yeah, you have
there.
to. It's
Yeah,
not even a
that-
joke. You do have to do the like hand thing because it
You're
won't
right.
focus.
Well, this is
Anyway.
what I got a lot done. I got all of the railings.
Oh,
in
wow.
blue.
Nice.
Door frames are done. I'm working on the
I enjoy
legs.
that it's blue.
Yeah. Gotta have that blue. I know the aesthetic. I know my job. Parker, how did yours go? How'd you get it?
I didn't even open Photoshop.
Oh,
I'm gonna
I'm
be
sorry.
real honest with you. I was like very into our conversation. Didn't even open it. I was just like, nope.
It was a
I'm
very
very
good
honored
conversation.
to
I
apologize.
focus so intently on one thing or another that I'm like, no, no, it's not gonna open this.
Oh, well, Andrew, it's been an absolute delight having you here. If the folks want to get your content or see more of your work, where can they go? Give it to them one more time to our friends.
What have we got? So my website is kolbisneat.com. My social media is kolbisneat everywhere. I actually grabbed the book so I can hold it. Like this is what
Woo!
Neverland looks like.
It's
got like
so
a gold
pretty.
foil cover. This is
So
my like
pretty.
working copy, so I've worn off some of the gold foil after years of like grabbing it and stressing out and so on. So that's the tabletop RPG setting book. That is like it's 5e compatible, but also is like agnostic enough that it can work in any kind of system. So that's it.
It's very good.
Yeah.
There's a whole mood to that. It's
I love
Yeah.
agnostic enough to work in any setting.
yeah.
I was like,
Me too,
Okay.
book. Me too.
yeah, me too.
All right, well, we're going to do a few quick announcements, my friends. Stick with us, and then we will raid out to one of our dear friends over here. But let's do those announcements. A huge thank you to our wonderful partners, Soundtail. They bring so much ambiance to our games. Even our highlight heroes, they make a little clinky clink. We hear the restaurant in the background.
Little tavern.
It's very nice. Yeah, it's really good. So check out Soundtail. The link is in chat. Very good application. You can do so much with your games just adding a little bit of music in there. We cannot recommend them enough. Been with them forever. Parker, over to you.
I'm here to remind you guys of who we're affiliated with. So, using the coupon code of the link in chat, we are affiliated with Found Familiar Coffee. You guys can taste Initiative for yourself. We are also affiliated with Crafty Gamer, who my favorite thing that they do is this immersive candle. They do a lot of scents. It's called Aromas of Adventure. This one is Forest Wilds. It smells awesome. Also, that wonderful thing that Josh is holding up, they sent that to us, and I took it to Colorado with me because I'm not the dungeon master.
It travels.
Give it to Josh. Then also a huge thank you to Arcane Anthems, who is wonderful, does a lot of free D&D and TTRPG music over on his Patreon. Completely free. Click the link and check him out. He did our themes for all of our shows, including our wonderful Twee theme that you guys heard in the loading screen. Back to you.
Well, the last thing I'd like to say is a huge thank you to our wonderful mods who make this channel safe and great, and they answer they highlight your questions, and they keep up with our crazy announcements, and they keep the nasty bots away. We love our mods. I think Alec and Dnd were in here today, so thank you guys, and thank you to the library for working on the commands. We really appreciate you guys. You work very, very hard. Much love. And with that, again, Andrew, thank you so much. We really had a blast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
This was lovely. And now I feel like I'm that much closer to learning how to paint a mini. So
Yeah.
we took some steps.
yeah.
Oh, okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.
See ya.
Oh, that was